You know, when you picture a scientific lab, you probably think of these super clean, sterile places, right? Where all the big breakthroughs happen. But what if I told you they've got a dirty little secret? Today, we're going to look at how a special team of AI agents is stepping in to clean up science. And I mean really clean it up, making it safer, cheaper, and way, way greener. So let's pull back the curtain on the surprisingly messy world of lab waste.
I mean, just think about it for a second. Every single major breakthrough, a new medicine, a new material, it all starts in a lab. But have you ever stopped to ask what the environmental price tag for all that progress is? Well, it turns out the very places we count on for innovation can have a huge and pretty hazardous footprint.
And that really gets us to the heart of the problem here. We're talking about a staggering amount of waste. And the real kicker? Where all this waste comes from. It's probably not what you think.
Okay, so where's all this junk coming from? Your first guess might be those giant, complicated machines whirring away in the corner, right? Nope, the data tells a totally different story. Get this, less than 10% of the hazardous waste comes from the actual analysis. Over 90%, yeah, you heard that right, a massive 90% comes from just one single step, preparing the samples before they even get near a machine.
So why is that? Well, it's because a lot of the traditional methods, some of which have been around for decades, use enormous volumes of really nasty chemical solvents. Take a technique called Soxhlet extraction. The best way to picture it is like running a coffee percolator for hours and hours. But instead of water, you're using potent chemicals to pull what you need out of a sample. Sure, it works, but wow, is it inefficient, and it creates a ton of toxic liquid waste.
But imagine if you could sort of audit that whole process before you even touch a single beaker. Well, this is where our hero of the story steps in. Let's meet the GreenLab Guardian. It's an AI system built to tackle this exact problem, head on.
Now, the GreenLab Guardian isn't just a single AI program. It's way cooler than that. Think of it more like a high-tech heist crew, like in the movies. It's what's called a multi-agent system, basically a team of specialized AIs, where each one has a very specific job, and they all work together on one mission, to make lab work cleaner and a whole lot safer.
All right, to really see how this works, let's give the team a mission. We're going to watch them take a totally standard request from a scientist and see how they turn it into a blueprint for a much greener, much more efficient way of doing things.
Okay, so here's the prompt. This is what a lab chemist might actually type in. It's a real-world task. Analyze 10 soil samples for PAHs. By the way, those are nasty pollutants you get from things like oil or coal. Using standard HPLC. Now, HPLC is just a super precise way to separate chemicals. But here's the important part. The chemist also asks the AI to audit the waste and suggest some modern nano-solutions. And that right there, that's the query that kicks this whole incredible process into gear.
So, how does this AI heist crew tackle the job? Well, first up, you've got the quantifier. That's the numbers agent. Then the protector comes in, acting as the team's safety officer. After that, the innovator steps up, playing the part of the brilliant researcher who's always up on the latest tech. And finally, you have the decision maker, who brings it all home. Let's watch them work.
First on the scene is the quantifier. It crunches the numbers and, wow, it calculates that for just these 10 little soil samples, the standard method is going to generate almost a full liter of chemical waste. That just perfectly shows you the scale of the problem, right? That's a lot of nasty liquid for what is really a pretty small experiment.
Okay, next up is the protector. It analyzes that waste and immediately throws up a big red flag. The problem? A chemical called dichloromethane. Now, this stuff is used all the time in labs, but it's also a high-risk, suspected carcinogen. So, you see, this isn't just about being green anymore. This is a direct safety issue for the actual humans working in the lab.
And here comes the breakthrough moment. The third agent, the innovator, starts scanning all the latest scientific papers. And it finds one. It finds a paper that shows a new technique using something called nanosorbents, which are basically microscopic sponges designed to grab specific molecules. And this technique can cut solvent use by more than 95%. And this isn't just a theory. This is a proven, absolute game-changing alternative.
So let's recap. We've got the waste calculated, the dangers flagged, and a brand new solution found. Now it's time for the final agent in the crew, the decision maker, to pull all of this together into one clear, easy-to-understand report.
And here it is, the final audit. The AI gives the current old-school method a pretty dismal green chemistry score, just 25 out of 100. Ouch. But then, look at the potential score for that new nanosorbent method it found, a whopping 85 out of 100. I mean, the difference there is it's staggering.
Looking at it this way makes the impact crystal clear, doesn't it? We're not talking about a tiny little improvement here. This is a complete transformation of the entire process. That is the power of using AI to connect a problem directly to the most cutting-edge solution out there right now.
So the final verdict from the AI is simple. It's direct. You can't misinterpret it. The system doesn't just dump a bunch of data on you. No, it gives a clear, expert recommendation. It basically hands the scientist a roadmap to a much, much better method. Okay, that one mission was seriously impressive. But let's zoom out for a second. Let's look at the bigger picture. What does a technology like this really mean for science as a whole? Why should you care about this, even if you don't work in a lab?
Well, it all comes down to what people call the triple bottom line. First, the environment. You're talking about more than a 90% reduction in hazardous waste. That's huge. Second, economics. Labs save a ton of money, not just on buying these expensive solvents, but on getting rid of them safely too. And third, operations. A process that used to take hours can now be done in minutes. That frees up brilliant scientists to do what they do best, discover things, not just do boring prep work. It is a win-win-win.
And that really brings us to the final thought here. We just watched an AI team make science itself cleaner, safer, and faster. Kind of makes you wonder, right? How many of the rules that we just follow every day, not just in science, but in manufacturing, in healthcare, you name it, are just old habits we haven't bothered to question? How many of our biggest, most stubborn problems are just sitting there, waiting for the right kind of intelligence to come along and see them in a totally new light?